Welcome, citizen astronomers, to today's Unistellar Live event. It's Make Your Dreams Come True Day and also Women Crush Wednesday. So today we're discussing female astronomy powerhouses. I even have my Nancy G. Roman Lego accompanying me on our wonderful event today. I'm Whitney, your host from Unistellar. Some of you may know our EV-scope. It's a very powerful, simple to use consumer telescope. But what brings the magic of the EV-scope to life is our partnership with the SETI Institute, which makes this extremely powerful tool, not just a telescope, but also a powerful scientific instrument that helps anyone become a citizen scientist or join this adventure in astronomy and scientific discovery. As mentioned, today we're chatting about women in astronomy. We all love to stargaze, including women who have historically had a little bit of a harder time getting paid to do it. But even so, women have studied the stars for millennia. In fact, one of the first female women astronomers, Aglianis, figured out how to predict lunar eclipses as far back as 200 BC. So you go, girl. We have a number of incredible guests today who I'm going to add to the stream and introduce you to. So joining us today as our featured guest is Dr. Jill Tarter, an astrophysicist and astronomer known for her work on the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI. She holds the Emeritus and Bernard M. Oliver Chair for SETI at the SETI Institute and has been with SETI since 1984. She's deeply committed to the education of future citizens and scientists, is a past winner of the TED Prize, and Discover magazine previously recognized her as one of the 50 most important women in science. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jill.
Whitney, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Also joining us with a very rich perspective on this issue is Nancy C. Wolfson, a scholar, researcher, and author, and co-founder president of Disrupting Space LLC. Nancy is currently the vice chair of the International Astronautical Federation's Technical Committee on Near-Earth Objects, which is one of the cooler titles I have ever heard. Welcome, Nancy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward.
And finally, completing today's panel is Val Clavens, Unistellar Brand Ambassador at the SETI Institute, my colleague and an expert in planetary astronomy. Welcome, Val.
Thanks for having me.
So to start, I want to talk about the state of women in astronomy today, and I'd like to start with Jill. Could you tell us a little bit, Jill, how has this changed over the course of your career? It's been a truly incredible career over many decades, and I'm sure that as with many fields, it's changed a lot for women. Can you tell us a little bit about how this career has changed, how this field has changed?
Well, I started out deciding to be an engineer at a very young age. And so when I went to engineering school, I was the only woman out of a class of 300 men. And that was, pretty daunting odds. It's a lot better, much, much better today. But it actually isn't so long ago that one of my particular heroes, an astronomer by the name of Margaret Burbage, opened up the mountaintops to women observers because the end of last century, I think it was the 70s or 80s, women were not allowed to use the large telescopes on mountaintops. And Margaret, who had been an astronomer royal in England, came to this country and she applied for time. And they said, no, we can't have you there. You're female. And we have all these men and, sleeping during the day and working through the night. It would just be too disruptive to have a woman on the mountaintops. Margaret said, no, that's not right. She went away, and what she did is she had her husband, Jeff Burbage, apply for time on the telescope, writing up the projects that she wanted to do. And then, as was permissible, she went along as his night assistant. And she did this for a couple of years, right? So Jeff would go off and read journals, and she'd do the observing that she wanted to do. And then she applied for time again. And the allocation committee said, come on, we've already told you, can't have women on the mountain. much too disruptive. And she just put her hands on her hips and she said, I've been on the mountaintop for the last 2 years and nobody's even noticed. So give it up. And that was what it took. Today, I think that there are so many opportunities for young women who are interested in the science and exploration that is astronomy, and in particular, the brand new field of studying exoplanets, planets that orbit around somebody else's star rather than our sun. And so that field wasn't all full of old white men when it burst open. And so women are, I think, some of the best and brightest in that new field, that new exciting field of exoplanet study.
Do you feel that your female colleagues have also witnessed a transformation in how the astronomy field has received and welcomed them over the course of their career?
Whitney, I'm sorry, we had some technical difficulties and I only heard half of that question.
Oh, no worries. I was curious if you think would you say that many of your female colleagues have faced similar challenges, hopefully changing challenges over the course of their career, where there may not have been as warm a reception a few decades ago?
Well, when I got to graduate school at Berkeley, I actually had 2 other women entering at the same time as I did. And the chairman of the department invited us to his office to welcome us. And he said, you women are so lucky that all the smart men got drafted for Vietnam. Right? We didn't know how to respond to that. But all those women and many others that I met in graduate school have gone on to be project leaders and to be really successful. So you can do it. You might have to, at some time, grow a thicker skin, right, than you otherwise might have. But if you know what you want to do and just put your mind to it, then go for it.
Nancy, I'm curious, over the course of your career, have you seen things evolve in terms of women's involvement in astronomy and how they are received by male astronomers?
Hi, yes. Well, I have to say, I guess thanks to great pioneers and visionaries from the past, we had it just a little easier, but not as easier as everybody wish or it should be. So there is still there is still a path to walk and improvement to make in regards to having women in astronomy, but also women's involvement and participation in any other sector of the space industry. I believe, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but I will say that we maybe are put in the loop and see, and we are, there are requests from us that probably is not as balanced as the same expectations and requests that are made from our colleagues if you will be a male. But in my experience, I have to say, I guess I've been just extremely lucky. I am a professional. I always felt very welcome. I work for several diverse sectors of the space industry, including planetary defense, which is a tough community. Okay, and I adore them. And all I can say is that the door has been opened. But if I do not encounter a door that is open, I will make sure that I open it myself. So I guess my answer will be yes, we have made progress, but it's also your personal journey. You have to know what you want when it comes to astronomy and the space industry, and only you know what you can bring to the industry. So regardless of all the challenges, you just have to keep moving forward. I think in regards to what Jill was sharing with us, by the way, Jill, it's great to have you here. So thank you for joining us. Yes. My experience has been, again, because great woman, just like Jill, you know, we probably have it just a little easier. I will say that. So that's my answer.
So I was surprised to see a statistic that said as recently as 2018, only 18% of the international astronomical community was female. What other challenges, Jill, do you believe that female astronomers are facing other than not as much representation in the community as we would hope or desire?
Well, I mean, there's always this, if you can't see it, you can't imagine yourself doing it. So not enough opportunities to see women as role models, that young women can say, oh, I could do that. Yeah, that sounds cool. And I think there's also, there's still biases in the lowest level of our education system that teaches something like astronomy as a set of known facts. And we don't do a very good job at telling our students that no, what science is, what astronomy is figuring out how you fit into the cosmos, where you came from. The best piece of the science is the questions we don't yet have answers to, and that you could think about actually providing some of those answers in the future. And I think the reason that I like astrobiology as a field is because historically we've sort of been okay with women going into biology. You know, that's sort of more nurturing, or it's just a cultural bias. But astrobiology, right now, people are getting up really comfortable with having young women in that field, and I think that the young women that are part of it understand just how exciting it is. I mean, we're talking about finding life beyond Earth, and it could well happen in their lifetimes. So telling young women and girls that science isn't a bunch of old, dry, known facts, but it's a continuing puzzle and an exploration. I think that might appeal to a large subset of young women.
Val, I'm curious for you specifically, as a young female professional in astronomy, did you have female role models growing up? And whether you say yes or no, do you think that that's changed at all in the time that you've spent in this universe of astronomy?
So yeah, growing up, I didn't have any female role models really, except for Star Trek. My greatest role model is probably Carl Sagan. So yeah, not very many female role models, but over time, women are getting more into astronomy and more becoming role models. And while I was at NASA with the Cassini mission, I met a lot of female astronomers, particularly planetary scientists, that really inspired me. And an interesting example of this is looking at the gender distribution for the International Astronomical Union. If you look at members over the age of 50, women make up about 15% or less in that range. But if you look at members below 50, in particular, under 30, much higher percentage are women. And for members below 30, almost half are women. So basically, by the time those who are under 30 are in their 50s, there will be just as many female role models as male role models in astronomy.
Wow.
That's really encouraging.
Yeah, it really is. I'm curious, could you talk a little bit, Val, about what inspired you to join the field of astronomy? Because maybe there are other young women, or we know we have a lot of Girl Scouts who are watching us today. So hello to the Girl Scouts of America. Can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you?
Sure. There's a number of things. I guess I mentioned Star Trek earlier. But also it was my dad, my supportive family. My dad's a geologist, and he took me on a lot of rock and fossil hunting trips. So I got to see what he's interested in firsthand, and his encouragement. And we always talked about astronomy growing up. We had a small telescope, many trips to the Air and Space Museum in DC, and the NASA Goddard Space Flight Centers. They had open houses back in the day. So all those things.
Jill, I'm wondering if you could tell me something similar. What have been the ingredients to your very successful career, in hopes that some of our young budding female astronomers could seek out those same opportunities or support systems?
Well, like Val, my dad was the one who inspired me and encouraged me. And although I don't give her enough credit, it was actually my mom who made me tough enough to go and push ahead to do whatever it was that I wanted to do. I was fortunate that because I learned how to program the first computer that we ever had on our desktops, a PDP-8S, right? It took 2 people to get it on the desktop, but it was there. And I knew how to program that when that piece of equipment was given to an astronomer by the name of Stu Boyer, who wanted to do a SETI program. And he came to my office with something called the Cyclops report, which was an engineering summer study design at NASA Ames in Stanford, asking how you would find extraterrestrial intelligence. And their answer was to build an array of 1,600 100-meter telescopes. So it was a big, bold project. And when Stu wanted to start a SETI project at the Hat Creek Radio Observatory that was run by the University of California, Berkeley, he didn't have any money. So he begged and borrowed obsolete equipment, and this computer was one of the pieces that he got. And he said, how the hell do I program this? And somebody said, well, Jill's still here, and she used to do that. So he came and recruited me with this Cyclops report. And I was just so amazed by this question that we've been asking since we crawled out of the caves. Are we alone? And there I was at the right time with the right skill set to be able to perhaps do something to answer this question. I just got hooked. That has been the real key. I just was so fascinated that we had this opportunity to approach this old question that I just put my head down and went from there. And it's such a privilege to be trying to work in something that you really enjoy, and to not have to punch a clock and do what your boss tells you, but to pose questions that you want to find answers to. It's really an incredibly rewarding professional life.
Nancy, would you say that you've had similar experiences? What has helped you to achieve the level of success that you have had in your career? What were some of the driving forces?
Determination, regardless. I've been inspired by a lot of people. Although I don't have anyone in particular that I'm inspired by, because I tend to look at everybody's input and what they have done in life as a reference. So I admire a lot of people. And in that regard, I think everybody has to be their own superhero. So this kind of mentality, I guess, is what has continued propelling me forward, regardless the challenges, because you will always find them, especially women in astronomy, or again, in any sector of the space industry. We are going to face difficulties and moving forward and determination. But I will say, if there is anything that I would like people to take away from this discussion, is you don't have to be, and this is the magic about our times, our current times in astronomy or anything, any other topic regarding space, is that you don't have to be a specialist like us to join us. You don't have to be a specialist to have a voice, especially in astronomy. The sky is for everyone. And thank God, as Junior Stellar and SETI Institute They have the amazing citizen science contest not too long ago, nicknaming an asteroid. So which I became a judge of it. Thanks to those kind of projects, we have opened the doors for everyone, but mostly for women that probably is a little more challenging to enter any kind of sector in the industry. So yeah, that's what has been moving me forward. Definitely determination and understanding that the cosmos, at the end of the day, outer space belongs to all.
Val, something that both Jill and Nancy said reminded me of your story about how you acquired skills. You taught yourself to do something that you didn't know, and it helped you to progress in your career. Would you mind sharing that story? Because the first time I heard it, I totally geeked out, and I would love for others to hear a little bit about your experience.
Sure. So I was already really interested in the Cassini mission, having worked at NASA Goddard with the Cassini team over there, studying Titan's atmosphere. And so I wanted to, I searched online for all the Cassini images that were coming out, and they're publicly available. So they're all in monochrome, in a certain wavelength of light. So when you look at them, they're not what your eyes would see. And I wanted to replicate that and share them with the world if possible, because I didn't think enough of the world was seeing that. So basically, I taught myself how to use Photoshop, and there's some online tutorials from the Planetary Society on how to combine these images and replicate what the eye would see. And so I started doing that, and I got recognized by Fox and NBC and all these other interesting news media over the years. And yeah.
I just think that's so cool that you saw an opportunity and then you taught yourself how to take advantage of the opportunity, and it opened up even more doors for you. So I just think that's very cool. I'm curious, Jill, could you talk a little bit about, what opportunities exist? If there are Girl Scouts or even people who are mid-career, like Ada Carrera, who we'll talk about in a moment, who are passionate about astronomy, where do they start? What career opportunities might exist? Or how should they begin their research into this thrilling career?
Well, they should look around where they live and see what kind of institutions there are. Look at community colleges, look at research labs, look at opportunities to intern and to learn by doing, as Val did, and even, go broader. I said start at home because then that's the least disruptive. See if you can go volunteer, become part of a group, learn some skills, be useful, and keep your eyes and ears open while you're doing this, and learn everything that you can that this opportunity provides. And then you've got something on your resume if you want to continue on professionally and go to graduate school and do postdocs and work in a lab. You have something there as a stepping stone, as a starting point to say, see, I really am interested in this, and I'm good. I was able to do these things even without formal college preparation or graduate school preparation. I just come to the SETI Institute website and look at the kind of educational materials we have there. Look at the range of SETI talks that we are doing and see who's interesting to you. Don't, it's a two-edged sword. I was going to say, don't be afraid to drop an email to somebody that you admire or who inspired you with an interesting topic. And I say it's a two-edged sword because I get lots of those emails, and you really want to answer them all, but it's time-consuming. Look for ways to get your foot in the door, and see. And it's good advice, because it might turn out that you don't like it, or that it introduces you to something that you like even more. So if you're willing to say, I will work for experience, and then work really hard to make the most of that experience, I think you can go a long way.
Nancy, I would love it if you could answer that same question. What opportunities do you feel exist for young women or even mid-career professionals like Ada, who are fascinated by the cosmos and wanted to be more a part of their lives?
Yes, I thank you for that question. I think that's one of the reasons that I do what I do. Although I in my career, I have to continue educating myself. So it's a path. It's just a thing that is never going to stop. What I like about our times is that, in regards to women in astronomy, we have way more opportunities, and I can say that almost no excuses to try things out and take advantage of the different opportunities that our organizations are putting out there. I feel like more and more our people, our community, our space community, and our organizations are understanding the importance of social responsibility. And we are creating projects, events, volunteer opportunities for people from the general public to join us, and other specialists to come and share their skills with everyone. So in terms of opportunities for people to get involved and continue their education, or educating themselves and start from the beginning, just like that, I will say, go ahead, don't be shy, and do a lot of research, because one thing that we are not lacking of now is just as SETI has opportunities for people to join us. Just as Jill said, go ahead and drop an email. If you don't know if this is a place where you can learn something or you can share your skills, send an email, make a call. Somebody is going to care, because it's not just us as a specialist caring for our careers and our own advancement, but also is to create community, especially in the space industry. We want to create community. And just as Jill, Val, and myself, we want these kind of topics to be shared with everyone, students, college students, school, general public. So that's what I will say. Go ahead, research, find something that is eye-catching for you. Go ahead and say what you can bring to the table. Don't be shy. We're not going to close the doors and be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. No, we're going to be like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And we might be able to actually use those new ideas. Just remember, innovation comes from many unexpected places, okay, and unexpected actors. So, at least in my case, one of my missions is democratize higher education.
That's great. Val, would you mind addressing that question as well, just in your perspective of somebody who is a young female professional and also is involved heavily in citizen astronomy and the citizen science aspects of Unistellar and the EVscope? What advice do you have for people who may be looking to dive headfirst into the world of astronomy?
So I'd recommend to get your friends and family involved. Share your enthusiasm and knowledge with them. They'll learn a lot, and I mean, who isn't awed by the universe anyway? Your friends and family will be there to support you along the way as well. If anything negative happens to you along the way, don't let that get in the way of your progress, because things do happen. And astronomy is a demanding field. And so it's important to never lose your enthusiasm, even if things seem insurmountable. And also develop relationships and with professors and influential people in astronomy. A little bit of what Jill was talking earlier, volunteer for them, get to know their projects and what they're working on, and stay current in the developments in astronomy.
Yeah, actually, Whitney, when I done a lot of lecturing in university settings, and after the lecture, people come up to the stage with all kinds of questions, and I'm always was asked, do you have any internships? Do you have any way of working with the project? And I would simply say to them, yeah, there are some opportunities, but what you're going to have to do is prove to me that I can't get through a summer without you. And so it's what Nancy was saying, don't be shy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Any final words of wisdom, Jill, before we let you go? And then Nancy, Val, and I are going to stay on and talk about some of our other heroines in the world of astronomy. Jill, you are certainly one of them, and we thank you. So any parting words for our viewers and our Girl Scout viewers?
Yeah. The only thing that's bad about being old is that I'm not going to live to see the fabulous things that are discovered in this century and the wonderful progress that we will make in understanding our place in the cosmos. There's just so much that's going to be happening. And, I wish I were young and starting out again so that I could look forward to being part of that. But, the 21st century is going to be the century of biology on Earth and beyond.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Jill. We appreciate you. And everyone who's viewing, please do check out the SETI site. It is a treasure trove of information. And I have attended the SETI presentations and live events that Jill mentioned, very high quality and a lot of really interesting dynamic personalities. So thank you so much, Jill. We appreciate you.
Right. Well, thank you for organizing this. It's a great opportunity to talk to young people, young women.
Our pleasure. All right. So next up, Nancy, Val, and I are going to highlight some fascinating profiles of women astronomers who we are, I'll say, crushing on. It's Women Crush Wednesday, but also Make Your Dreams Come True Day. So we want to talk about some people who have truly realized some dreams that are spectacular. In fact, if you don't have it, I highly recommend the Lego Women of NASA set. One of them is this amazing human, Nancy G. Roman. She's kind of known as Mother Hubble because she was that influential in creating the Hubble telescope. But the first personality that we're going to talk about is actually one that Nancy is highly familiar with. And in fact, I want to talk about one of our commenters who knew Ada, voted for her in the contest, and said she was an amazingly kind woman and a tireless astronomy enthusiast and promoter. And so with that, Nancy, could you tell us a little bit about the Nickname the Asteroid contest for which you served as a judge? And then tell us a little bit about Ada. And I even have a video to accompany our presentation, multimedia at its finest.
Yes, thank you. This is a very exciting topic for me because it combines both words, astronomy and planetary defense. So it just goes to my heart. Yeah, Ada, oh my gosh, what an amazing human being, what an amazing woman. So let me give you her full name. She's Ada Amelia Carrera Rodriguez. And she was born in 1936, and unfortunately, she left us, passed away in 2020. And she has done a lot of work in Mexico City. And one of the things about Ada Carrera is that she was able to join us, well, in the spirit, I guess we can say that, for the nickname the Asteroid contest by Unistellar and SETI Institute. So one of the amazing things about this contest is that we were able to successfully get our audience to join us and give us a lot of ideas. And we had, what is it, Whitney, like over 100 and something entries for nickname the asteroid and giving us suggestions. Some of them even telling us stories about, life and people that they admire. So we not only got entries and suggestions for names, we actually got to learn a lot about the people that were joining us in this contest, as they were suggesting the names that this asteroid, which code is 1999 AP10. But eventually we had a winner, and the winner was Ada Carrera. So yeah, go ahead, Whitney.
Yeah, I just love her story. I'm going to play the video again because you can't get enough of an amazing woman like her. It's really fascinating. As you mentioned, Nancy, she did pass away, sadly, in 2020. And her son and many of her supporters launched this campaign to have this asteroid nicknamed after her. And the contest involved an asteroid which SETI and Unistellar conducted a great deal of research on, created a 3D model of it. And Ada had so many submissions. She had 60% of all votes. And the first 20 and almost the first 40 finalists by votes were all for her, some variant of her name. And as we learned more about her story, it was really easy to understand why. And what I think is interesting is that she was a female motorcycling pioneer, and she really did not get involved in astronomy until her 40s, when she decided that, this is something I'm interested in. She had gone to an observatory. She had heard that we are all mostly made of stars, and she was fascinated by this fact. And it actually spearheaded a series of educational courses. She went on to get many, many degrees. I think I had heard at some point 100 different degrees, certificates, and different types of accomplishments specific to astronomy during the 4 decades in which she was involved. And it's just wonderful to hear what an impact and this lasting legacy that she's had on female astronomers and astronomy education in Mexico. And I'm so glad, and I know we all are, that now we can raise awareness for her accomplishments. And she was just a master of speed, but also an amazing, compassionate human who wanted others to enjoy the adventure of astronomy as much as she did. And so just want to send another congratulations to Ada and everyone who supported her in this contest and really encouraged her successful win. So next up, we have another fascinating astronomer, and I actually have more multimedia to support it. And I'll turn it over to Val, who is going to talk a little bit about somebody who, too, is getting a posthumous honor, but a name that everyone should know because she was a total rock star and really a legend of her time, and her legend continues to this day. So tell us, who are we talking about, Val, while I pull up our multimedia?
Sure. So we're talking here about Wilhelmina Fleming. She had a very interesting career. She helped develop a common designation system for stars and catalog thousands of stars and other astronomical phenomena. She came to the US from Scotland in 1878. And shortly after her arrival, she and her young son were actually abandoned by her husband. She ended up finding work as a maid in the home of the Professor Edward Charles Pickering, who happened to be the director of the Harvard College Observatory. A few years later, in 1881, he hired her to work in the observatory. Wilhelmina Fleming discovered many nebulae, variable stars, and novae, including the very iconic Horsehead Nebula, which I just found out about a few weeks ago. I thought that was amazing. She's also known for the discovery of the first white dwarf. It's pretty crazy. And in 1906, she was made an honorary member of the Royal Astronomical Society of London, the first American woman to be elected. Whitney, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're mute.
Oh, there we go. All right. Well, thank you so much. So we have another incredible human being to profile who is actually a colleague of Jill's at the SETI Institute. Her name is Pamela Harmon. She is the director of education at SETI, and really fascinating. She's the principal investigator for Reaching for the Stars, NASA's Science for Girl Scouts. She was originally trained in civil engineering, but she's now helping to build better communities for the next generation and has been developing and testing space science badges for Girl Scouts, which is so cool, facilitating camps and trainings for girls and adults and so much more. In fact, again, shout out to the 30 Girl Scout troops who are going to be working with Unistellar's EV Scope in 2021 and beyond, a program that's been realized thanks to the work and dedication of Pamela and the grant that she procured from NASA to support the initiative. So Reaching for the Stars, NASA Science for Girl Scouts is a 5-year space science education program that brings Girl Scouts together with scientists, engineers, and educators at NASA and beyond. As a former Girl Scout myself, I can attest to how amazing the badges are. I still have my badges, and they really mean a lot when you achieve a badge and complete the tasks needed. And the reason why this is important is because we know that through early, sustained exposure to the people and assets of NASA, NASA's mission, SETI, and beyond, we can help girls and leaders explore STEM, the content, the discoveries, and of course, the career opportunities. And so we're really excited about this Girl Scouts program, the Girl Scouts camps and events. And so for all the Girl Scouts who are watching, please do check out these badges. There's just quite a bit to learn and explore in this space. So thank you, Pamela, for all of that incredible work. All right, next up, we're going to go back over and I'm going to see if I can bring back my screen share. Thank you for everyone who understands the challenges of tech during COVID. Let's bring up not that picture, but a different one. All right, Val, take it away.
Sure. So while I was working with the Cassini team at NASA, I met many female planetary scientists that really inspired me, and I'd like to talk about a couple of them. So here's Dr. Elizabeth Turtle. When I met her, she was part of the Cassini imaging and radar teams looking at Titan's surface in detail, Titan, Saturn's largest moon. She also worked on the Galileo mission and also with the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter spacecraft. She's now the principal investigator of the upcoming Dragonfly mission to Titan, which will fly around Titan looking for signs of life. That should be really, really cool. And yeah, I'd also like to talk about Sarah Horst. Speaking of the Dragonfly mission, she's a part of their science and engineering team. And what really inspired me about Sarah was an experiment that she led with regard to Titan. Her team ran an experiment where they took the gases in Titan's atmosphere, added energy to it, and it produced all of the amino acids and nucleotide bases that are necessary for life to form on Earth. So I thought that was really awesome.
That is crazy. All right. Well, I also wanted to highlight someone who I'm sure many of us have heard about and have a complete dream of meeting, and it is Dr. Andrea Guess. Who heard about this year's Nobel Prize in Physics? If you did, you are familiar with Dr. Andrea Guess. She's UCLA's Lauren B. Lichtman and Arthur E. Levine Professor of Astrophysics. Along with her team, Andrea made direct measurements of how gravity works near a supermassive black hole. I think this is so cool. It's research that she describes as extreme astrophysics. If that is not enough to compel you to join this profession, I don't know what is. She's one of 3 winners of the 2020 Nobel Prize in Physics for her work on providing the conclusive experimental evidence of a supermassive black hole with the mass of 4 million suns residing at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And, the thing is, it's fascinating. She really was not set up for success here. And I encourage everyone who's watching to check out this Scientific American article about how no one really thought that this experiment would work. And she had to use telescopes and technologies that were not set up for this. But she persevered and she was dedicated to this mission and figured out new ways of working with technology in order to conduct these experiments. And it really has been this most comprehensive test of this theory of relativity and gravity. I heard something that was really interesting from Dr. Guess saying that, Einstein's right, at least for now. They're doing work that is so dramatic that it's testing the limits of what we understand about Einstein's theory of relativity, which can't really fully explain gravity inside a black hole. Another thing that's interesting is they have found that this supermassive black hole is having an unusually large meal of interstellar gas and dust. And they don't really understand why. So it's fascinating that we can learn so much and yet have so many questions that still exist. And something else that I thought was interesting, about a year ago, her team reported the discovery of a new class of bizarre objects. They're objects that look like gas, but behave like stars at the center of our galaxy, not far from this supermassive black hole. So it's just fascinating hearing about these various careers and opportunities that you can get into. Nancy, I'm curious, do you have any other types of careers or opportunities that you would like to highlight, either for the Girl Scouts that we know are watching or other people who may be fascinated by the cosmos and are looking to make a mid-career change? What types of career opportunities exist? What other heroes should people be looking to beyond the ones that we've mentioned?
Well, we have amazing people in our industry, definitely. And like I said before, we are constantly creating new opportunities for people to join us, especially our students and our young professionals. So one of the opportunities that I guess I would like to highlight is, now, and this is probably not a common thing to say, but if you are a student or you are a young professional that wishes to learn more about the space industry, either astronomy or any other sector related to space and the cosmos, conferences. Conferences are a very rich place, not just to learn about the new advances in technology and the new developments in the industry, again, in different sectors, but you will have the opportunity to actually get in touch with the people that make things happen.
Yeah.
One-on-one. Yes. People don't know about this, but hey, if you find us in one of our conferences and we see your enthusiasm and you have questions and you get our attention, most likely you're going to get one of the most amazing experiences, because you will have the information right there, but also the specialist that is giving the information, the one that is actually working on that specific subject. Yeah. Right? So I will say, now, I know some of our conferences, and I spoke about this with some of my colleagues from the one that is coming up, actually the Planetary Defense Conference in April 2021. And I said, I am so happy that this year our conference is going to be free and it's virtual. Yes, it's so exciting. It almost brought tears because our conferences sometimes can feel a little inaccessible just because the pricing and all of that, but also because there is a lot going on, and there is a lot to gain when you come to our conferences. But thanks to COVID-19, let's look at the bright side. Yeah. Most of our conferences have gone virtual. So, and at least 50% of them now, they are free. They're given for free. And you will get the same information and you will have actual opportunity to chat live with some of the specialists. As I said, not just anybody, but you're going to find us. We are the ones working on these specific subjects and we can give you the answers you want. So I will say conferences. And any case, after COVID, volunteer. volunteer at our conferences, and again, you gain the same benefits. Yes, and volunteer is always free, and 80% of our conferences, if it's not 100% of our conferences, we always have a place for volunteers. So drop a line, send us an email, somebody's going to answer and give you the answers you need in how you can join us. And that will be a very educational experience for our students, our young professionals, and if you are a specialist from a different sector, like I said, space belongs to all. So you can also share your experience with us, and we can share that experience with you on a more professional level.
That's great advice. Thank you, Nancy. You're so right. And I think even the cost of traveling to conferences may have prevented a lot of people from going, even beyond the registration fees. And so now, no excuses. It's free. It's archived, find what inspires you and learn more. Val, I'm wondering if you could speak really briefly to citizen science, because that's a lot of what you work on with Unistellar, where we have some challenges. And I know that there are some citizen science space-oriented programs that anyone can join. For example, Globe at Night or Zooniverse, or they could even follow Unistellar on our channels to have some regular opportunities. Would you mind highlighting some citizen science or citizen astronomy programs that you know of where people can just jump right in and get involved?
Yeah, there's a lot of citizen science projects. The ones you mentioned, Globe at Night, I think it's a really cool program that anyone can get involved. You don't have to have a telescope. You don't have to have any equipment. You don't have to know anything about astronomy. You just you go on their website. They have specific instructions to go over, but they're very simple. You just look at the sky to measure light pollutants, it's a great citizen science project. You mentioned Zooniverse as well, which I played around with many years ago. Now it's a really cool way to get involved in astronomy.
You can categorize different galaxies. All you need is to be able to identify a shape. And if you can categorize things based on shape, then you'll be a great fit for Zooniverse.
Yeah.
Well, this is wonderful. I'm just curious if, Nancy, I'll start with you. Do you have any parting words of wisdom or encouragement for our young or even mid-career women who may be considering astronomy?
Yes. So I guess my little piece of advice will be, regardless what is the level of education that you have in terms of astronomy, or any other subject or sector in the industry, you always want to keep learning. One of the things that and it's a constant discussion with my colleagues. Not too long ago, I was speaking with one of my colleagues from the European Space Agency, and actually he was sharing with me his very humble beginnings. And he ended up just like trying to contact and connect and chat with the specialists. And he got so inspired that that's how he learned that the space industry or any other subject related to the cosmos and outer space concepts will be his career path. So my piece of advice will be keep learning, regardless, keep learning. And if now, like I said before, we have so many digital tools where you can educate yourself. And again, innovation sometimes comes from very unexpected places. And you might have one idea that we just didn't consider yet. So you bring that idea to us and maybe we can put some work on it. So what I'm trying to say is that we are one unity. And at the end of the day, we need the general public and we are creating a community. So I continue with my education every day. So that is my advice. Please continue educating yourself in any way you can.
Before I ask Val that same question, I got to give a shout out to what you were saying. Never stop learning. find the online resources, but also the library is an amazing free resource. You can download and access content that you would never even believe. For example, I have used this book to help teach myself about astronomy. And for anyone who may have kids or young budding astronomers, look at my tabs. This is an incredible book, this DK, The Mysteries of the Universe. And you just have to see, I mean, the images are absolutely gorgeous and it makes learning so fun. This is another great book about astronomy from DK. I love their books because they're highly visual, really snackable content. So you can dive into stuff that's very interesting, but you also learn a ton. And so highly recommend these books. Either check them out from the library or purchase them on your own if you want to tab them to death like I do. Val, before we go, I want to ask you that same question as we end. What tips or words of encouragement do you have for young or even mid-career females who may be interested in a career in astronomy?
So like I said before, definitely developing relationships with important people in astronomy and professors, stepping stones, anyone, you know, develop those relationships and, you know, don't let them go. Always keep in contact with them and, you know, stay current with them and stay current on the latest developments in astronomy. Like what Nancy was saying, never stop learning. That's super important as well.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, in fact, I have met some young girls who already have LinkedIn profiles. They are mere teenagers and they have connected with me on LinkedIn because we share some common interests. And I've always been interested in speaking to people who have the motivation and the tenacity to reach out at such a young age and try to make connections and build a path for themselves. Well, thank you to everyone who joined. If you're viewing this video, you can also check out pretty soon a blog post on our site where we will not only house this video, but also provide some interesting links and resources to careers in astronomy, information about women in astronomy, and so much more. So thank you to Val, thank you to Nancy, and thank you, of course, to Jill for your time today. Thank you to everyone who viewed, and I wish you all clear skies and wide eyes until we meet again.